Kia ora tato, now mai haere mai. Welcome to our Facebook live chat today, which we will talk about our Tamariki and the effects of the recent weather events for them. My name is Rosalind, and I am a Plunkett line nurse working for Plunkett. And I am here today with our very lovely Sarah Haskell, who has worked for over 30 years with our Pepe, Tamariki, and also Darfano. Sarah is also an occupational therapist, and she is a trained infant mental health with a master's degree in infant mental health, alongside training in numerous interventions to support whānau. Um, Apart from that, Sarah is also the current president of the Infant Mental Health Association Aotearoa, New Zealand. And amongst the many things, I'm pretty sure Sarah has been a wealth of information, and she will share that with us today, especially with her expertise in this Facebook topic. Allow me to introduce to you Sarah. Welcome to our Facebook live chat today, Sarah. How's it been?
Oh, thank you for having me. It's a real pleasure to be here, and I'm really pleased that I'm able to join you. And hopefully, we can have a good chat about some of the topics that people want to hear today.
Yeah, that's right. I think because as well, Sarah, is, in lieu of, the cyclone Gabriel that hit, northern region
Mm,
just last month, on the 12th of February, leaving at least, gosh, 11 dead and also displacing thousands of family. Not just our farming capital, the winery areas, the fruit region in Hawke's Bay on the East Coast were hit particularly quite hard. We're just
mm.
thinking, what do you think are the key things with families being affected by the flooding, especially with their little ones? Because we are not ready for this. No one was ready for this.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah.
No, well, Rosalind, it's unimaginable, I think, for us who aren't involved in the midst of it, and
Mm,
that it's really hard. And you know, when we have family, whānau gets displaced, it's such a disruption. And I would say that everybody at the moment is still very much in the early phase of of this. It's still very much in the midst of things. People are
mm,
still homeless, and some people are, don't know whether they'll be able to get back to their own homes. And as
yeah.
adults, we're probably feeling pretty stressed.
Mm,
I'd say the adults are running on adrenaline, and that will start to probably fade a little bit, and then
mm,
people start to get a little bit more tired, and things can feel a little bit up in the air.
mm,
People
mm,
feel really tired at that time. And of course, whatever's happening for the adults means that our Tamariki, our
mm.
Papias are going to be really struggling a little bit with that, because our whānau are the ones that connect us, the ones that co-regulate our pepe.
Absolutely, absolutely. And also I think like it's just how do you get back to what's your normal life right now? Like what's normal? When it comes to being displaced or perhaps living with other, families if you have got some somewhere else.
Mm,
Yeah, again, it's probably another adjustment, not just for those who are displaced, but also for those ones who are actually sheltering you away. Yeah, yeah.
Totally. And I think, for our Tamariki, Pepe and Tamariki, it's like actually trying to get some normal routines back in place as much as possible. So, things like bedtimes, trying to stick to normal bedtimes, then
Mm,
normal things, meal times are really important. And just having that connectedness with you as their closest one, is going to be really important, because that's what's
mm,
going to help them feel safe and secure.
mm,
Routines and structures can be really helpful for all of us, because our brains do very similar things. And
mm,
when we're displaced, actually we like to have some of that routines, structure back in place as much as possible, which
Mm,
is probably going to be hard if you're living in somebody else's home or
mm,
in temporary accommodation and all of that stuff. It's yeah,
that's
really
right.
hard.
Yeah. Yeah, and I agree with you, Sarah, when it comes to you mentioning about routines.
Mm,
So there are probably young tamarikis out there that are still struggling with, with normal routines and sleep and
mm,
whatnot. And I know that it's hard, especially, if you're not in your, like own safe spaces, in your own safe havens. It's
mm,
hard, and it's
mm.
it's it's a bit of a big change for everyone. So it's really that making sure that you've got that structure in place, like what Sarah did. um and Sarah, any ideas on how to keep our tamariki's brain as calm as possible when it comes to very very stressful situations like this?
Well, what we know about the brain is that as we get stressed or as events happen,
Mm,
we head down our brain from that, that really good neocortex, which is the place where we can really think logically and be
mm,
in that state. And I would imagine that everybody who's been in the area and affected by this is going to their brain is not going to be in the always in that neocortex. So they go down their brain to the emotional brain and sometimes down to feeling fear. So
mm, mm,
we have to, for all of us, and especially for children, we have to work from the bottom up. So we have to do that
mhm,
repetitive rhythmic activity. So lots of somatosensory activities. And what the beauty of that is little our littlies love that
mm,
somatosensory, the bouncing, the swinging, the walking, the throwing stones, the
mm,
feeling of the sand, or probably not the silt that's there, but just anything like that is going to be really important. And what we also know is that it's so good
mm,
for the adults as well. So, and having
mm,
regular doses of that rhythmic, repetitive activity can be really, really important to help us get higher up our brains to be able to think a little bit more logically, to have a moment
mm.
of a little bit more calm. Um,
Yeah, that's good. That's good. And also that comes into mind, Sarah, that being mindful of the things that surrounds them in the environment. So it's really quite good to just maybe before even starting your day, have 5 minutes for yourself, just to soak in whatever it is that needs to soak in at that time. Especially, you know, this is one of the things that we are not prepared for. So yeah, yeah, and yeah.
Absolutely, Rosalind. And when we think about um, our Tamariki at whatever age is, they
Mm,
rely on us as adults to
mm,
in co-regulate. And so
yeah.
that means if we're not regulated as adults, then actually it's going to be really hard. They sense, especially our infants, they look at our faces, they look at um, how all them subtle cues we give out when we're perhaps a little bit distressed, or, the tone of our voice, or we might frown, or we might show we're upset. And it's not about not showing some of that, but being able to reassure them that actually mummy's okay, or daddy's
Yeah.
okay, or grandma's okay. I'm just I'm just have a little bit upset, but I'm here. I'm with you, and I will keep you safe. Um,
Mm,
because our very littlies they don't understand what's happening, and
no.
they will need our cues and be guided and by us. So it's about having them moments first thing in the morning to actually take a breath, regulate yourself, be
That's
mindful of what's happening. Because looking after you as the adult will ultimately be able to help the our babies and our tamariki to stay calmer.
mm,
And having that, having moments, sure, it doesn't have to be long moments, having pausing for an extra second to be present with your baby,
mm-hmm.
is just to let them know, talk to them, tell them. you know? It's
Mm,
okay. We're living somewhere else at the moment, but it's okay. Mum's here.
yeah, yeah. And also, Sarah, I think because at Plunkett Line, we also receive
Mhm.
some calls, of course, regarding um, changes in the behavior. And I
Mhm.
guess what we always say sometimes is, the behavior is actually their way of communicating to us.
Mhm.
Um, and talking about behaviors, any ideas on what works for parents when it comes to like managing, I guess, sometimes challenging behaviors for their tamariki as well when it comes to this situation?
Well, you know, when there's been when people experience trauma, and the trauma is what we're experiencing inside, is often in children there are some behavioural
Mm,
changes.
mm,
I guess it's about really beginning to be present, um, realize that this is their way of communicating, and really watching and listening and beginning to think about what are they telling us they need at this
mm,
moment, because this is not necessarily, especially in this early time, it's not a time to be teaching them something new. They're not in that right part of their brain. So it's about, yep, dealing, keeping people safe, but
mm,
realizing that actually at this point they're trying to communicate something to us. What are they trying to tell me? And what are they trying to tell me they need at the moment? And sometimes for parents, it's worth thinking about, what do I need when I'm scared or when something's
mm,
gone wrong? Because that might be a little bit of a clue of what your little one needs.
mm,
We often think about, okay, so I'm feeling a bit anxious, I'm feeling a bit frustrated or whatever. What do I
mm,
need? Okay, if I go for a short walk, that clears my head. So, okay, so that's a bit
mm,
about that with repetitive
mm,
activity. So I think it's about, this is probably not a time at this point in this early phase to start introducing new
mm,
strategies, teaching your children new things. They're not in that part of their brain that's going to be receptive to that. So it's
mm.
about being with, co-regulation, trying to understand what they're telling us they need at that moment.
Yeah, yeah. I like that, Sarah, the being with, because that means that you're actually present, isn't it,
Totally.
with your tamariki, and not just, yes, yes, I'm with you, but you're actually on your phone doing something or checking whatever is going around in the world. Um,
Yeah.
yes, you are there, but are you actually present?
Yeah.
Are you
And that's
present with
really
child?
important, Rosalind, is that being present. So, having them few minutes. It doesn't have to be hours and hours. It's a few
Mm,
minutes where you put your phone aside, where you
mm,
actually sit together and wonder, and it's not you know, the older children who are verbal, not making them talk about their experiences at this point. It's about, they will say when they feel safe and when they want to process that. This is very early stages. It's about, they will
mm,
tell, and they may not tell. It may not be you, it may be somebody else, and it may be when something, they smell something or they hear something, and it brings up a memory, and then they want to talk about it. They will come in very short bursts. It will be, you know, they won't want to have in-depth, long conversations for hours, like maybe adults might need to do that a little bit more.
mm,
Mm.
mm. Yeah, cool. So, for those of you who just recently joined us, we're here with Sarah Haskell today. We're talking about Tamariki and weather events, and pop in your questions on the comments section if you've got any, or you can also call our 0800 number, Plunkett line, 0800 933 922, if you have got any other questions in mind as well. Um, so, Sarah, thank you for sharing those information. And what about our loved ones? So, like our loved ones, we talk about our tamariki.
Mm.
You were talking about us having good long conversations with the adult. How do we let people know that yes, we are here, we're accepting help, but what about those times that we get this unsolicited help from other probably people or extended families or the ones that you've been displaced with, type of thing.
Mhm. It's always hard because people do it from a place of well-meaning,
That's right.
but I guess it's about really, you know, being able to say, "Hey, I need some space. I need some time for me to work out how I need, what I need."
Mm,
But also not being afraid to ask for what you need from whoever that may be. It may be a loved one, or it may be somebody outside your whānau.
mm,
Sometimes that might be the way you want to process it, and I think there are I know there's some funding around some of that counselling beginning to come available, so it's about if you do need that more professional help and you're
mhm,
feeling for that, then, people need to be brave enough because it's a big step. It's a brave step to go and ask for help and, um, for yourself or for your Tamariki.
mm,
Um, but, I think that there are people out there and agencies and some funding that's been made available for that now. So I think it's, taking that brave step and,
mhm,
I think, you know, um, it is still early stages. People are probably not even sure what they need at this point. And I think as anybody on the outside is being patient. Of course, we
mm,
want to be there helping and making things better and stuff. And yet, I think the people there who are experiences are the best ones to tell us when and how.
mm,
So
mm,
I, getting that connectedness with people, connectedness that our relationships are going to get are the things that get us through these events and the trauma that we feel within us. That relationship is so
mm,
important for us as adults, but particularly for our Tamariki. It's,
mm,
and and you know, whatever them, whatever that. I'm sort of thinking of, when I'm thinking of patterns of rhythmic, repetitive activity. Doing waiata and
mm.
dancing and kapahaka and all of that stuff
Yeah,
is rhythmic and repetitive. It is so good for our brains. It's
yeah.
just really is. And also, when we're doing that, we're doing it in amongst loved ones and we're connecting our relationship, which is so important in these times when we're stressed.
Mm,
Really,
mm.
yeah.
Definitely agree. And I guess like what we're discussing earlier too as well, Sarah, is that kind of building that sense of community again,
Mm,
wherever that community is, whoever that community is, it's just having that relationship with the people around you now
yeah.
that you're displaced or you're living with someone else. So that really makes, a good sort of human relationship with everyone. Now,
Yeah.
we're also putting up some good resources from, Infant Mental Health Association, Aotearoa, New Zealand. So thanks for sharing those, Sarah, as well. Um, and also, like, I know that, certain times like this, being displaced or being anywhere now after the cyclone, some little ones or some tamariki might not cope very well and might be dysregulated.
Mhm.
And what any sort of tips or anything that you would want to add regarding coping with dysregulation for our tamariki as well?
Mhm. You know, we all anytime when our tamariki are dysregulated, it can be a struggle. It can be a real
Mhm,
and I guess it's about again, it's going back to that really looking after yourself so you're in a as regulated state as possible to be able to manage the dysregulation that your tamariki are showing. And that may be in all sorts of ways. Maybe that they're crying or they're shouting or they're throwing things or they're getting angry or whatever. If you're dysregulated, you're going to escalate their dysregulation because it's really hard when we're not regulated to deal with somebody else. So it's that staying as regulated as possible, staying as calm as possible, and
mm,
being present, remembering that actually this is this is a way of communicating that actually they're not feeling okay about it at the moment, but they will be okay. And, you know, I think this is a time where, you know, staying with them, being present, really beginning to just keep remembering that this is not going to last forever. They will get back to a much more
Mm,
regulated state if and
mm.
your being regulated is going to help very much in that sense.
Yeah, yeah. And also talking about those things, Sarah, I know that there's quite a lot of support out there.
Mhm.
So, where can they get help and support? How can we access this apart from, of course, ringing the 0800 numbers? Have we got any sort of resources there as well? What kind of help can they get?
Well, I guess obviously within their area, I think locally
Mm,
there will be people who will have some local resources,
mm,
local agencies, and people that. So going to your locals thing will be probably a really good place to start. And help doesn't always have to be in the form of professional help.
mm,
It's often it's often that person who is there, and you know, beginning to again, it's like get some
yeah.
structure and routines back into your life, because we all like the familiar. Our brains love the familiar. So actually,
Mm,
you know, it helps us to be less stressed. I think my understanding is that the government have put some money up for some mental health sessions. So I'm I'm guessing there will be some, and I will forward any information I have that can go onto
mm,
any of the things where I think people can get some free sessions around that. I know that for children, there's the Gumboot Friday funding, so counsellors are around the country are able to offer that, and they get
mhm,
2 free sessions. So that's another way. And you know, we're in this really amazing world now that it doesn't have to be the counsellor who's actually in your town, because they
mm.
may be offering things at the moment because they may be displaced and whatever. It can be online. So um, you know, I think it's about, if people do need that professional help and it's not readily available local, there is some online services that will be available as well.
Yeah, definitely, definitely, Sarah. Um, and also I think it's good to, now that you're quite right, still quite on the early stages, I guess. People don't actually know what help do they need yet. It's probably
Mm.
more like getting back to basics, say, like building everything from scratch again, starting from the bottom, and making sure that you will look after yourself as well,
Yeah.
not just as a parent, because always I think we think that we prioritize our tamariki's needs first, but you
Mhm.
can
Mhm.
you can run on an empty tank too, eh? Yeah.
And to be honest, it's a bit like they tell us on the aircraft: always put your oxygen mask on first, and then help your children or whoever needs help. Because if you can't breathe, then you're not going to be any help to anybody else who needs help. So it's
Mm,
like really having them few minutes in the morning to check in with yourself, whatever that is. Taking the 5 minute walk if you need to. Um, finding, you know, I think taking a walk with your children, your Peppy and Tamariki, because you know that pattern rhythmic activity
mm,
is
mm,
so vital for our lower parts of our brain, which is the part that's going into survival mode. You know, it's going that fight or flight stuff that most people have got some understanding of. That's where it is, and that's the bit we need to keep calm, so we can
mm,
get thinking part of our brain that goes, okay, we're safe
mm,
now, and
mm,
okay, not ideal, but we're safe. We've got some basics that and
mhm.
we're working on some of the other stuff, you know.
Yeah.
And I think it's like you know, I really do think that keeping connections and keeping them relationships really together is going to be the thing going to really help all of ev- everyone around.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just checking in with everyone who's watching us at the moment. If there's anything that you would want to ask, or anything that you would want to know, or any input that you want us to talk about, feel free to give us a message, or private message us. Would be more than happy to answer those questions. If ever the live chat's finished, we'll also be posting this video as well, so you'd be able to watch it too. Um, and Sarah, do you think, basing on our topic at the moment, do you think we're getting to what we are most likely wanting to tell, um, you know, everyone who's watching us, or have we gotten to that part yet? Do you think, or have anything else that you're wanting to add or discuss that we might have missed?
I think I think at this early stage, it's around that, the connectedness, being
Mm,
present with your children, and your particular remembering your infants really do need you to be present, and
mhm,
then also, having some structure and basic routines, because that helps us to feel a bit safer, and our children rely on that. Um,
mm,
so if you can get back to some of them basic routines, even if it's just the time you're having Kai and just the time you're going to bed, having that, and having the same routines,
mm.
whatever that may be within your household.
Yeah, yeah. And also, it's quite good to really, like what you've said earlier, Sarah, that really structuring your environment, structuring your day to day activities. Sometimes it's a bit harder. Like, say, you're in a different home,
Mhm.
or you're in a different area, it's hard sometimes to sort of make that structure, I guess. But
Absolutely.
even in small things, isn't it? Do it
Yeah.
in small things,
Mm.
one at a time. Your brain can only process what you can at that point, and you don't want to be doing so many things in one go. So I guess,
Absolutely.
to sort of wrap it all up, I'm really glad that we've talked about all of these things: the relationship, the connectedness,
Mhm.
starting again back from scratch. Really good input from Sarah at the moment. Anything else that you want to add, or you want to, tell everyone watching us at the moment?
I think just our hearts go out to everybody, and just when people are ready, if they need help, to reach out. Um, and I think the rest of us around the country are wanting to help, but we also don't want to be a hindrance, and we don't want to put what we think you need onto you, because we don't. It's unimaginable for us. Um,
Mm, mm,
um, and so we want to be able to tailor that, and we know that you're best placed to tell us what you need.
yeah,
But don't hesitate to reach out. I think that's what I would say.
thank you, Sarah. And
Mm.
also, I think, we seldom, I guess, we forget things, and being kind to yourself and being gentle to yourselves as well. you know, Looking after yourselves so that you can look after others too. Free helpline available 24/7. You can call Blanket Line anytime at 0800 933 922. We might not be trained counselors, but we will help you in any way that we can. And yeah, our expert Sarah Haskell here has shared us so many things and so many grateful information today as well. So feel free to give us a call anytime, send us a private message through, or even email us, in whichever way suits you guys. We are here for you. And thank you for sharing this time with us today. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
Thank you.